Church, when Dr. Pepper walked into that volleyball game, Olajuwon's face was giving me if caught in the act was a person. I got my notes. I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. All right, y'all, so let's jump right on into our hot topics. We got two today. So first up is that the experts have returned. Now, baby, let's first just clap for the experts returning. Child, these damn couples was up a creek without a paddle and up a mountain and couldn't figure out how to get down on the other damn side. Now, riddle me this, church. Why do you think the experts only show up every 3rd, 15th, and 9th damn episode? Like, are the advertising dollars not hitting like they used to? Are they trying some sort of different format? Or, are just some seasons more expert laden than others? Like, I can't really figure it out, but I do think that you do the couples a disservice when number one, they're thrown into this experiment. Number two, they don't really know how to be married. Most of them, this is their, first marriage. And then number three, you need the tools and guidelines from the experts in order to get through the process successfully, right? And I think what we saw in this episode is that the experts were greatly needed and greatly missed because I truly enjoyed having them here. I think that Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal were instrumental to this episode in bringing a lot of these couples to some aha moments and some breakthroughs. So really, really great to see them and glad that they're hopefully taking a more active role. As you know, we're only 3 weeks away from decision day, so we'll see what shall happen. Now, on to our second hot topic. Let's talk about this couple's volleyball game. And we're not going to take a whole bunch of time on it because I really want to talk about more of the intricacies in the actual general couple updates. But as far as the volleyball game, y'all, my favorite moment by far is when Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal rolled in, okay? Because Olajuwon was talking a whole bunch of stuff, honey. And then once they came in and Jasmina was like, oh my goodness, they're walking in. I said, the song that came to my mind, y'all? Back in the 90s, there was an artist named Sparkle. And she had a song that was called Be Careful. Child, when Dr. Pepper was rolling, they kept switching back between Dr. Pepper face and Olajuwon. All I kept thinking of the lyrics to the song was, you better be careful what you say to me, because it might turn around on you. You better be careful what you do to me, because somebody might do it to you. That's all I kept thinking. It had me a little moment, but that's besides the point, y'all. Listen, I really love the experts being there, like I told y'all before, but also just for these simple antics, right? These simple games, they seem gamey and a little bit, out of the ordinary, but I really feel that it serves to keep the couples on task, on notice, and sort of on their toes in terms of anything that they say, anything that they're doing can be being analyzed and can be thrown back in their face, right? So just two things I want to talk about from when the experts dropped in on the volleyball game. Now, let's first start with Lindsey and Mark. So they both noted that while Lindsey was pouring out her heart to Mark, Mark was basically leaning sideways, boys in the days. Y'all remember that Paul Wall from back in the day? I'm doing too many song references today. He was sitting sideways was the title of the damn song, in the chair. Now, baby, was it me or could Mark not have leaned further in that damn chair if he tried, okay? I was scared that the chair was going to tip over because Lindsey, she seems to be a very expressive person when she's talking to people, and she seems to want to reach out and touch somebody's hand. Okay, that's the final song reference, y'all. I'm tired. She seems to really want to reach out and touch to try to make that connection, right? And it seems like, I don't know if Mark was just so uneasy about the subject matter that they were talking about, or perhaps the group forum that it was in, but he kept leaning away. So to me, you can't really be involved in the conversation or involved in trying to enact change if your body is not present. And, to me, if your body's not present, your mind's not there anyway, because you're so uncomfortable that your mind is taken out of it. So I'm glad that they pointed it out to Mark and that he needs to be more present, because if she's trying, then you need to try as well, so good points there. And in terms of Olajuwon and Katina, we're going to get into it more in terms of their general couple updates. But listen, I am glad that Dr. Pepper is mature enough to pick peace in a situation, okay? Because I said this in my last review. You cannot have two people in a situation that are both rat-a-tat-tat-tat, okay? One person has to be rat-a-tat and one person has to be calm, okay? And Olajuwon was already on one. Now, if Dr. Pepper had come in that thing and was like, I heard what you've been saying about me. Let's have a group forum in terms of your actions and how everyone has experienced you. She would have been well within her rights. But I'm glad that she basically chose to go along to get along and realize that it wasn't the time nor the place to bring up his past issues, because it seems to be a sticking point for him and something that either causes him great shame or a great confrontation that results as to it. So Dr. Pepper was the mature one in the conversation, and you could still see how Olajuwon was still full of shit, because he was saying, I'm glad Dr. Pepper realized the errors of her wrongs and, didn't want to, wanted to correct her past actions. No, she just did a cost-benefit analysis in that damn situation, and she was like, the cost of bringing up your stuff and causing a whole nother scene is not worth any sort of perceived benefit that it could be. So kudos, Dr. Pepper. You are a better woman than I will ever be in that damn situation. Now, moving forward to our general couple updates, since we're already talking about Katina and Olajuwon, y'all, let's just continue. So the nature of the experts coming in this episode, y'all, was to basically bring up the questions and the conversations that may have not been happening between the couples yet, right? So they gave each of the couples, through talking with them, just little nuggets and little questions they could go back to their spouse and have a conversation with, right? So the questions that Katina was given to ask Olajuwon was basically, who hurt you, right? And it's a very poignant question and a very needed question, because no one flies off the handle as much as Olajuwon does without something having to be the base of that, right? There has to be something behind it. You don't consistently fly off because of no reason, okay? Either you've been conditioned that this behavior is acceptable, you've seen it in your childhood, or you've just not learned how to operate in a relationship effectively. But it's a very interesting question. Who hurt you, right? And then Olajuwon, when he sat down with Dr. Pepper, she couldn't even give him a damn question because he flew off the damn handle. Now let's get on into it. So Dr. Pepper got in that ass on Olajuwon. He was very defensive when he was called out. Now listen, y'all. Trying to choose my words carefully. Dr. Pepper talked to Olajuwon in a very calm, very steady manner, okay? She did not raise her voice. She did not become accusatory. She literally reiterated all of the behavior that Olajuwon has shown to Katina through the screen, as well as how the other couples have experienced him, right? In a very calm, direct manner. Olajuwon, in return, flew off the handle again. Now, he couldn't fly off too much because he's talking to Dr. Pepper and not Katina, catch. But, he did get a little bit amplified, and his response to the inputs that he was being given were disproportionate, y'all. And I want y'all to realize that. When someone gives a disproportionate response to the inputs that they are being given, there is something else behind there, okay? Either you have a problem with authority, I was trying to determine if it was a problem with authority or a problem with who's giving him the constructive criticism, right? Because, if a man is giving you the criticism, right, it seems like he takes it in, right? Or even suggestions on his relationship. When he's talking to other males, it seems to go over better, right? He seems to take nuggets from, even when he was talking to his coach person, the coach was giving him helpful nuggets with which to go about his relationship or how he is as a person. He was taking it in. And I understand there's a level of comfort there because he knew him, but I think it really begs the question, does Olajuwon take direction, criticism, constructive criticism better from men than women, right? Because that could be a situation in terms of why he feels it necessary or needed to fly off the handle when it's directed towards women. Dr. Pepper and Katina in particular and especially, right? And so it could be a problem of the whole male-female dynamic, but in truth, it's probably more of a problem of you not accepting the wrong that you did in certain situations, right? It must be difficult to be confronted with your bad behavior if you're not ready to deal with it. And another nugget that Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal basically had between Katina and Olajuwon is that Katina has a fix-it spirit on her, right? The moment that he flies off the handle and does something, she's always trying to figure out, how do I fix it? How do I put the genie back in the bottle? How do we find a resolution while he's still going off? Okay. And that to me does him a disservice, right? Because it kind of teaches him that, what he's doing is fine if she's always trying to fix it and move on to the other thing instead of dwelling on, no, what you did to me was wrong. What you did to me was out of line. I don't like it. I did not deserve it. And let's discuss it. And that's essentially what Dr. Pepper was trying to do in that situation, where she was trying to say, listen, you've treated Katina badly. Okay. Here are the instances in which that happened. Do you have a defense? Have you moved forward? And Olajuwon's main thing was, that happened in the past. We're in a better place now. Well, listen, if you don't understand your past, you're destined to repeat it, okay? If you do not heal your past traumas, you are destined to repeat them in your current life. And I think that's what Dr. Pepper was trying to get over to Olajuwon, but he was too thick-headed to realize it, y'all. So, in terms of the conversation that Katina and Olajuwon have, because the questions were sort of structured as a way to guide a conversation that you will eventually have with your spouse. Well, because Olajuwon wasn't really even feeling the questions or the method of communication or the way the conversation was going between him and Dr. Pepper, they never even got into a point where she could give him nuggets with which to fix his relationship or bring forth conversations that would be helpful, right? So no questions were given to Olajuwon, even though Katina got hers, and no conversation was had between the two on camera. I don't know if it happened off camera, but, if all the other couples had a conversation on camera, then I would think that they would have a conversation on camera too. And the fact that they didn't, and they seem to be the only couple who didn't have a conversation afterwards, sort of spoke volumes to how the conversation went with Dr. Pepper and Olajuwon's mind frame as it relates to his marriage. Now, moving forward to Steve and Noi, y'all. So the questions that were given to Noi were, can you make me feel safe financially, which is something that we've discussed before. And the questions given to Steve were, if I create a finance plan, does that make you feel secure? Can you also not go outside the relationship in a social media standpoint? Now, both, very apt questions based on where they are. Noi's comfortableness in a relationship is based on finances because of her refugee past, okay? And we've discussed that ad nauseum. I'm not going to get into that again. And in terms of Steve is a free spirit, so he kind of moves off of Noi's energy, which can be probably annoying to her because she might want a more domineering man or someone to take charge. But he's more like, I need you to tell me what you need, and I will move around that, right? And that to me is sort of where their problems start and where they end, right? And in terms of the social media stuff, it's what I always say. If you have a problem with me, talk to me. Stop dropping nuggets on social media. Stop doing things to try to elicit some sort of public response, some sort of validation that you need instead of just having the difficult conversations with me. And listen, I'm guilty of this as well, and I understand. Sometimes it's easier to get your thoughts together in a social media standpoint, but it's different when you're in a marriage with someone, okay? And this can be deemed hurtful to the relationship. So Steve and Noi had a conversation, and the conversation was basically about the finances and also about the social media quotes. Now, baby, Noi sat there and gave the most non-confirmation confirmation that the damn quote was about Steve in the first place, okay? Now, just to reiterate the points on it, y'all, Noi had posted a quote that says, if you think you deserve better, it's because you do, or some iteration of that, right? So Steve asked her a direct question. Was the quote about me? And so Noi started hemming and hawing, okay? First she said, it's my social media, I post what I want. And then he probed further, and then she said, the quote I put up there, it wasn't about you, okay? Then he probed further, because in order for you to put this out, the natural next, step that someone makes that either knows you or me is that there's problems in the relationship, right? And that's a natural next segue to make. And then she finally says, I do feel like this sometimes in the relationship, but it's still not about you. And then finally she basically says, I feel like this in the relationship sometimes. Period, point blank. Girl, you could have saved us about 45 seconds to 3 minutes, to get over all your damn hemming and hawing. And this is the thing, listen. When she was sitting down with the experts, what was brought up is that she has a lot of fear-based internal conversations about what to bring up with Steve and what not to bring up with Steve. Mama, Steve is not going to dissolve into a pillar of salt if you have the difficult conversations with him. And not having the difficult conversations and continually either leaving or going on social media to air your grievances only serve to further the dysfunction in your damn relationship, okay? So mean what you say what you mean, and walk in your damn truth, and then we can talk about it, okay? Now, does it make Steve feel good to hear that the quote was about him? No. In reality, baby, he already knew the damn quote was about him, but it's kind of like when police officers need the damn confession, okay? They may have all the damn evidence, but they want the damn confession, and he needed that to move on. People need different things in relationships. It is what it is. But I think it's good because they needed to have the conversation, number one. And number two, if I tell you that something you do is hurting me and you change it, keep that person around. But if I tell you that something continually hurts me and you do nothing to change it, that's somebody that you need to leave at the damn door. Okay, so Noi has essentially been put on notice, and hopefully she acts differently in a social media standpoint moving forward. Now, in terms of the finance talk, y'all, listen, it may have been awkward, it may have been prone to tense moments, but it was a conversation that needed to happen, right? You know, finance talks are not easy. These are my finances, these are your finances, this is what I see for our life together, this is what we need to afford, this is my plan for children, XYZ, bank accounts, XYZ. Like, it's conversations that need to be happen. No growth in life comes from being comfortable, okay? You need to be uncomfortable with which to grow to the next level. And I think that's what we were seeing with Steve and Noi in real time. Was it a difficult conversation? Absolutely. Was it a tense conversation? Absolutely. You know, are there still more conversations that need to happen between the two? Yes. You know, I don't think they could get into the ins and outs of their finances in a reality TV format, right? Constructive enough to calm all of Noi's fears surrounding Steve's finances, right? But to me, if you don't start somewhere, you can't get anywhere, okay? So I think this was a good first step, and I hope it leads to more conversations surrounding how they want their lives set up and how they want their finances set up, because it needs to happen, you know? And I did want to note, and I said this last time, that even if Steve had a full-time job, I don't know if Noi would be happy with it. And we kind of saw inklings of that in terms of when they were having that conversation between the two of them. When Steve was basically saying, you know, I know you prefer me to have a full-time job, but let's say if from my entrepreneurship pursuits as well as, a part-time format, if I'm making the same money as a full-time job, will that satisfy you? And Noi didn't respond. So listen, I don't know why the words full-time job are so synonymous with security for her, but to me, if the ends justify the means, I don't see the problem. If he's bringing in the same amount of money he would by clocking in a 9-to-5, 40-hour work week, by working part-time or doing entrepreneurship stuff, I think that solves your box. And I think the open communication that this starts is probably a good way to kind of get her out of that mindset that a full-time job and a 40-hour work week is the be-all and end-all of security. Security can look like a lot of different things, so something to keep in mind. Now, moving on, y'all, to Lindsey and Mark. So Mark's questions that he was given was basically, why do you try to cut so deep? And as for Lindsey's questions that she's been given, they kind of, like, Dr. Pepper kind of gave her question overload, in my opinion. Like, it's usually 1 or 2, she gave a 3. So the questions were, what does he think love is now? Can he define an emotional connection? And can he walk away before it becomes too heated? Now, what I found interesting about the Lindsey and Mark dynamic this episode is that they both level set and that they were broken people, right? On the Lindsey side, actually, let's start with Mark. On the Mark side, he gets triggered when Lindsey flies off the handle because of his past relationship with his mom. Apparently, Mark's mom, due to her depression or, whatever was going on in her life, she would fly off the handle. And Mark's dad would respond by not responding, okay? He would become very introverted, very drawn to himself. And so Mark has kind of replicated this behavior in his relationship with Lindsey. And so them talking to the experts this episode was kind of like an aha moment for both of them, right? And an aha moment for us as an audience at home, right? Because if you do not heal your past traumas, you're destined to repeat them in your current life, right? Now, on the Lindsey side, Lindsey basically said her anger comes from sadness because of things she can't change. So they both have mom issues, right? Lindsey's mom issues stemmed from being dismissed as a child, right? Her feelings were never taken into account. And so she basically conflated the emotions of anger and sadness, right? Because she couldn't get too angry at the mother because number one, that's the mother. And number two, it was a situation that she couldn't change. So her anger and her sadness conflated into one damn issue, and that's how she approaches all situations. So when she's angry at Mark, when she's spreading all this venom at him, when she's trying to cut him so deep, when she's trying to cut him to the white meat, it's because she has conflated anger and sadness, and she's basically saying to herself, I'm angry, I'm going to cut deep because I'm sad, right? This is a situation that I can't change, and that triggers the anger response. And I think what was very interesting for them both to figure out in this episode is that on the Mark side, he is not dating his mother, right? It's a situation he can change with Lindsey, right? You can't change your mother and your father's relationship. That's out of your breadth of influence, and it would be pointless to try to change their relationship. You can only try to change a relationship that you're in today, right? And I think if you stop viewing your relationship with Lindsey out of the lens of your parents' dysfunction, you would be able to discern the issues that you and Lindsey actually have and move forward from there, right? And the same thing with Lindsey. Lindsey, you're not in a relationship with your mom. You couldn't solve that relationship, right? And the anger and the sadness that you show towards Mark is not productive, okay? So let's try to dissect the anger from the sadness. So if you're angry at Mark, the trigger is that you're actually sad in the situation, right? Like, let's call our emotions what they are. If you're not actually angry, then you're sad. And if you're sad, we can address that, right? And I know you felt dismissed by your mother, and I know you felt that you didn't have a voice there, but that's a separate relationship. You're not dating your mother, and you're not your mother, right? And so if you would realize, and Mark would realize that Mark's not dating his mother, okay? And you're not dating your mother, and that you're in a separate relationship that you can actually enact change in, I think it would go better for both of you. And I think that was really indicative of the conversation that they had. You know, it was very constructive, and they kind of level set. Now, do I think this is going to be the be all and end all of their relationship and solves all their issues? No. But this is why I like for the experts to show up, because they give people nuggets that they can take back to their relationship. Does it fix everything? Absolutely not. But does it help you get over a hump that you couldn't get over by yourselves? Absolutely, okay? And if I can continually help you get through this hump, that hump, and the third, eventually you'll have the tools to do it yourself. So good job, experts, and good job, Lindsey and Mark, for being transparent. Now on to Jasmina and Michael, y'all. Michael's questions were, what would increase trust between us, and can chemistry be built over time? And Jasmina's questions were, what can I do to make you trust me? Can we entertain our momentary affection? And who are you? Now let's start with Jasmina's last question. I can understand her reluctance to be vulnerable based on the who are you thing, right? Because as we learned throughout the weeks with Jasmina and Michael, Michael's past is very traumatizing to him. There's lots of unresolved emotions there. And when he talks about it, he gets sad, he gets wistful, he gets upset in a sense, right? And so when you're in a relationship with someone with unresolved trauma, you can try to sidestep their issues for as long as you can, but eventually you're gonna need to come back to it, right? And I'm a firm believer in that if you have unresolved issues in a scenario and it causes you an emotional response every time you talk about it, it's because you haven't talked about it enough, okay? And if you would continually bring it up, even if it's in small doses, small chunks, small nuggets, eventually you'll get to the point where it's easier to talk about it in totality versus it throwing you into an emotional distress every single time it's brought up, right? So I think her point in terms of who are you is very apt for the conversation. We can't figure out who are you, your past, your likes, dislikes, your family structure, your dynamics, if I don't know who you are and also your trauma that has led you to who you are today. So a very good, insightful question on Jasmina's part. Now, in terms of the chemistry stuff, now, y'all, last week I said that I was fine with them being friends, and I still am. Truthfully and completely, I think y'all are better as friends, but, listen, y'all got married at first sight, so we have to go through the motions of trying to figure out if romantic feelings can build. I think what was interesting from them both talking to the experts is that Michael does not broach the romantic feelings aspect of it, or he does not try to initiate romantic interactions with Jasmina because he doesn't feel it's going to be reciprocated, right? Which I can understand. And then on the Jasmina side, she's saying, it's not that I don't totally feel romantic feelings for him. I feel it momentarily, but I don't want to be disingenuous in terms of trying to feel those romantic things all the time when I only feel it a small segment of the time. And I think that's a valid conversation, but it's kind of reminiscent of the conversation that Michael had with Pastor Cal, where he was basically like, I took away the whole kissing every night because it was something that she was doing more out of obligation versus something that she wanted to, right? And so it was an aha moment for him where he said, your relationship is going well now because you did all these things out of obligation, and eventually they became routine, right? And so the whole kissing, the whole romantic notions, the whole momentary romantic feelings, if she leaned into them more so than pulled away from them, eventually they go from more just, silent moments or isolated incidents to more actual representations of your true feelings as the feelings grow. So I think that there's something to be said for that, something starting as an obligation and eventually turning into something that you actually want to do. So am I hopeful for their relationship in terms of them staying together after decision day? Not really. I'm more so happy that they've gotten to a level set with their friendship status. But if the romantic feelings should develop in a point where it's conducive enough for them to say yes on decision day, then listen, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if they both like it, then I love it, And in terms of their conversation about the issue, I really thought it was open, honest, and they were on the same page, And I feel like if you find somebody that's willing to be on the same page with you and willing to work towards the same goal, that's a very good place to start, right? It's kind of like the level set that Lindsey and Mark had to do. We are both broken people. We come from a broken place. Let's level set and be open and honest and willing to move forward. So good for them. But y'all, I think that's really all I wanted to say on this episode. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DadDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, please heal your past traumas, because if you do not, they have a way of recreating themselves in your present lives. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.